that you could share. All right. So about me, lots of hats. I'm primarily as a job naturopathic doctor, which means I see patients privately. And my main claim to fame is educating them about their own health, trying to get to the root cause of their concerns. And then treatment-wise, naturopathic medicine, we're not against regular medicine, but the tools in our toolbox are more natural, I guess. Vitamins, minerals, herbs, supplements, stress management, things like that. I also have a hat that I'm self-employed. So I have the business piece. I'm a mother, I'm a friend, I'm a volunteer, and I'm a woman. And I do believe that women are superheroes, and we'll get into why. And I am able to spread myself so thin and do all the things because of the hormone superpowers that I have. So, in summary, this talk, happy hormones. I'm going to go over the main sex hormones, what they are, their ebbs and flows, a little bit into menopause, a little bit into hormone controversy, why I'm talking about it, and then I hope to give you some resources at the end. So superpowers, and obviously this is a female group, and I don't have any bias against men, but we are built differently. I strongly believe that because we have our female sex hormones, that we have special superpowers that are unique to the female body, and and that makes us different than men, not to be too controversial. Um, One of the big pieces, and we'll dive into it, that men don't have is progesterone. So that's a little spoiler, I guess. And one of the big things that progesterone does in the female body is the nurturing, giving, empathetic piece that females have so strongly. It's not a fluke that a lot of women choose roles that are caregiving, teachers, counselors, nurses, medicine. They have that hormone that wants them to give, protect, nurture, care, um, caring for animals, for a garden. Like those are stereotypical things that females are really good at, and a lot of it comes from that progesterone superpower. So we'll dive more into her in a little bit. The other interesting thing about women is we're not static. We're constantly changing day to day, week to week, month to month. Um, and so, like this slide is showing our ebbs and flows of the classic 28-day menstrual cycle. And my gosh, if they could teach all menstruating teenagers this, I feel like so many like self like guilt or uh, like so much of teenage angst could be explained by just understanding this in the body. So, what's in a 28-day cycle for 2 weeks? So, the picture that I have kind of has those dash lines in the middle. For 2 weeks, we're operating with pretty low hormones. And that is classically a time when we are energized. We're energized, we're motivated, we feel better, we want to exercise. Like that drive is pretty high in those weeks. And so if society and school and work was designed with a female lens, we might challenge ourselves more during those first 2 weeks and then give ourselves more grace during the second 2 weeks of our cycle. And like I said, this is like a perfect 28-day month, which very few people follow, but we'll We'll just use that generalization. Then the second 2 weeks, we really get the hormones surging. You've got estrogen and progesterone in the blue there. And when they're high, we feel different. We might not feel our best. We might feel more emotional, sad, irritable, sleepy, unmotivated. We might want to curl up in a ball and spend the week on the couch and that's where I was kind of getting into like a lot of that guilt sometimes that can be put on ourselves for not understanding like why am I just a lazy bum this week and just want to Netflix and chill. Well, some of it could be your hormones, and then it's not even that they're doing anything wrong. This is like their normal ebbs and flows. But we don't really understand that if this isn't taught or explained. And then the period happens, and the period is triggered by the hormones literally turning off. At the very end of the picture I'm showing, you'll see the two blues in free fall. And so they turn off, and that signals the body that we're not pregnant, the period can happen, we have flow. And usually women feel pretty good. They might have symptoms of the period, which we'll dive into, but overall, then those hormones turn back off. They're very low, and we feel back into Energizer Bunny mode and have all of have a really good 2 weeks again. So this can be different for everyone, and then there's definitely more extremes, but this is kind of the ebbs and flows of the cycle. And so I really like for example, exercise, like giving her really hard in those first 2 weeks, whereas the other 2 weeks you might do more yoga or gentle walks, things like that. And there's a lot of modern apps now where you can track your cycle and it'll give you those kinds of gentle reminders of like, maybe don't schedule this really challenging business meeting during this phase of your cycle. Like you might not be operating at your best. And kind of giving women some of those little like clues that like it's okay to sleep longer during this week because your progesterone is sky high and she makes you really tired. So ebbs and flows. And the two main sex hormones in females are estrogen and progesterone, and they are yin and yang, so they complement each other, they balance each other, and they do have different peaks during the cycle, which I alluded to on the last page. So let's dive into progesterone. I did a little kind of brief segue into her that she's our nurturing, giving, empathetic hormone. I really like to describe progesterone as your warm and fuzzy blanket. And so when she's high, and she's robust, you're okay. You're calm, cool, collected, you're temperature controlled, you're more relaxed, you feel more safe. She really helps kind of weather the storm around us. She wants you to curl up and cuddle. That's all progesterone. So when you're thinking of progesterone, think of the blanket. Another little foreshadowing is perimenopause and menopause, which we will dive into, but she is the first hormone to go. So I often use the analogy in my office when women are feeling, usually in their 40s, not themselves, more irritable, more road rage, more unexplained anxiety, difficulty sleeping. It's because that blanket is literally gone and you are more vulnerable without her. And then estrogen, couldn't find a great picture to describe her, but I think this kind of summarizes that estrogen really is vitality in women. It's energy, it's cognitive function, it's metabolism, it's heart health and bone health and musculoskeletal health. She's the caffeine of the body, so she kind of uh, drives everything. Now, she gets a lot of bad rep because you often hear about too much estrogen and blaming it on things like endometriosis or breast cancer or toxicity or fibroids. And that is true that too much of a good thing can lead to other problems. But I do give estrogen some grace We will dive into her evil twin sister, xenoestrogen, and all the bad things that come from her. But overall, estrogen's awesome, and we do want her, and we especially want her post-menopause for that vitality piece. So, ebb and flow, estrogen's vitality, energy, and progesterone's that warm, fuzzy, nurturing piece. We also have testosterone, often overlooked in the regular medical model that women have testosterone, and it plays a huge role on musculoskeletal health, also stamina, collagen-related tissues, so tendons, ligaments, hair, nails, skin. Testosterone can be responsible for gray, like, or lacking of testosterone can be responsible for graying hair and cellulite and brittle nails, things like that. And unexplained injuries. I see a lot of women perimenopause, menopause that are like, why am I a year later and I'm not recovering from this really simple ankle sprain? We might need to deep dive into your testosterone. Testosterone is also libido. So that's another thing that she does, or he does, or testosterone does. Okay, so if you think about the cycle, there should be no symptoms ever. And that's kind of a jaw drop moment for a lot of women. Like, what do you mean? PMS, everyone has that. Menstrual cramps, everyone has that. Hot flashes, everyone gets that. No, no, you shouldn't have any. A symptom that is hormonal, so cyclical in nature, can be explained by a change in one of the hormones, is a sign of something being not in balance. So there should be none. Suffering is optional, in that a lot of times that just gets brushed off or it's accepted that you should just have that forever. And the answer there to me is no. Like, if you have a symptom that is hormonal, that should be treated just like any other symptom. If you have a headache, you can tackle that through modern medicine. So I do put that note, like modern medicine is here for a reason. Like, we have figured out enough about the female body to know where the imbalances lie and what symptoms can be explained by which hormone. So if you have a symptom, let's correct it. And then I give some examples like PMS, PMDD, which is like a more extreme version of PMS. Like, those are absolutely related to the ebb and flow not being in balance, and that can be corrected. You do not have to suffer. Perimenopausal and menopausal symptoms, same thing. You don't have to have debilitating hot flashes for the rest of your life. Like, that is not just a consequence of aging, and you have to deal. There are treatments in modern medicine for those solutions as well. And then infertility, I'm sure everyone knows someone who's gone through that. That is another consequence of hormonal issues. And we have modern approaches to tackle that too. So, by and large, there's answers to all of these kinds of concerns. And this is just a little snippet of all the things that could be out of balance, but more commonly recognized ones. So perimenopause. So I talked a little bit about puberty and I wish I could educate all teenage girls on like what's going to happen and all the ebbs and flows piece. But perimenopause is second puberty, and I show this picture all the time, probably every day to patients, and I may have shown it to some of you already. This is taken from a book that I'm going to link at the end, written by Laura Bryden. She's a naturopathic doctor in New Zealand, and I've studied under her. And I love this picture when going through perimenopausal symptoms with women. So we talked about estrogen and progesterone already. Estrogen in dotty blue, progesterone in orange. They surge in puberty at the beginning in that teen phase, and then they're pretty much in balance, or should be in balance, for the entire majority of your menstruating life, reproductive years. And then perimenopause, which is a good 10 years if you look at the timeline at the bottom. It's a hot mess. Um, and it doesn't have to be, but if you just let things free fall, this is where she lays. The very first thing that I want you to notice is the start of perimenopause. The very first thing that happens is a drop in the orange, so the progesterone. She drops by a third, and that's huge. When your entire life you're used to a really good, high, decent level of progesterone, and then she drops by a third, a lot of things are going to feel out of whack. The very first perimenopausal symptoms for women are not hot flashes. That's late game. The first symptoms are that irritability, unexplained anxiety, moodiness, and disrupted sleep. Again, we're missing our blanket. Things are going to feel really off. As a consequence of that, estrogen skyrockets. If we think back to my yin and yang picture, they like to be in balance. So without a third of progesterone, we get estrogen kind of freaking out and she compensates by surging really, really high. Symptoms of really, really high estrogen in perimenopause are extremely heavy periods. A lot of women become anemic because they're bleeding so intensely. Fibroids, weight gain, unexplained hypercholesterolemia, like they're shocked that their diet hasn't changed, their exercise hasn't changed, and their doctor's talking cholesterol meds. A lot of it comes from that freak out of estrogen. It's abnormal, it's not fun. Um, then as perimenopause carries on, progesterone drops again by a third. Here we go again, more sleep disruption, more mood, mental health disruption. And then she turns off. Progesterone's gone. She's totally gone, and estrogen's kind of doing her dance by herself for the tail end of menopause. And there we start to see more testosterone symptoms coming into play, or lack of testosterone symptoms. Then the hot flashes might come, vaginal dryness, libido changes, brain fog. We'll start to see some of those estrogen deficiency symptoms come. The positive thing with this chart is then we hit menopause, and really things should be back in harmony. If we've got through that roller coaster, and we might have got through that roller coaster with some supports, which we'll talk about, treatments, then things should be in balance again. We've got estrogen and progesterone back in their yin and yang, complementing each other, no more roller coaster. But a lot of women post-menopause still don't feel great. And I meet women all the time, 5, 10 years out. They haven't had a period. Sorry, the definition of menopause is 1 year without a period. They may not have had a period for 10 years, but they still don't feel right. And that is because things did not get to harmony. There is still a disconnect between those two hormones, and we need to address that. I am not monitoring for questions or so just, yeah, someone
Hey,
unmute.
Amy, I'm watching and it looks
Okay,
good.
great.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. So this is taken from another mentor, and I love this picture. Um, because it kind of goes back, it complements the last picture really, really well. So I'm just going to pop back to the last picture for a second. So right at the top, perimenopause is second puberty. So if you think of a teenager and how wild and wonky everything's feeling, that's happening again. If we also think of a teenager, stereotypically, there can be a lot of like parental, friend, school drama. And some of that is coming from this progesterone that is entering the picture that was not there before. And one of the very first things I said was progesterone makes you want to give and care and nurture. And that can sometimes be hard for a teenager to kind of reconcile me, play, play, play. And now I've got this hormone kind of telling me it's not all about me. And so that can be part of that teenage angst, is reconciling with all those new hormones. So this picture is kind of talking about the mental emotional roller coaster of perimenopause and how it kind of goes back to the teenage thinking. So the first line is saying the kind of classic non-understanding of hormones approach, like, women are caregivers their whole lives, and then they become this crazy, awful person as they go through menopause. Ugh. So that's not a great explanation, and that's really missing the mark. But that is sometimes the stereotypical narrative, like, oh, mom was awesome and then she was a mess, or my boss was awesome and then something happened. So that first line is the bad line we're trying to retell. So then the middle line is showing that ebb and flow in the me narrative. So as a child, it's all about me, not in a bad way, but that's just all they know. And then you get that progesterone into the picture. And for the bulk of your life, it's about others, it's caring, it's career, it's animals, it's family, it's all of that nurturing element. And then we see that kind of like hot mess, squiggly line where that hormone's gone and it's now back to flatline. And really, menopause is part of the shift is back on you. That it's your time now. You've done decades of caring, and now it can be a time for you and your goals. And you can let some of the responsibility for others go. But the reason it's a bit of a hot mess is that's hard to reconcile with. And some women have a really hard time with mom guilt, career guilt, volunteering guilt. Like they're saying no to things that they did forever. And it's like, oh, this is weird. Like, why do I no longer want to do that anymore? And that's normal. And that's like where unpacking some of this with a counselor, Heather, can be helpful is just that reframing of everything can be hard to reconcile with, but it is normal and it is natural. And really, it's a time to kind of figure out, and this last line is showing that what didn't work for those decades and how do you want the next chapter of your life to look like? And it can look different. So that's why it's written designing the next chapter. Like, what do you want the later years of your life to look like? Who do you want to be? So I do want to ask if there's any questions about all of this, because this has probably not been discussed before. Most times I bring this up to women, they cry because they've never heard this, or it might help them reconcile some of those feelings they're having. So is there any questions or comments about the last two pages or last two slides?
Yeah, please pipe up. What a great expose on our lives. Anybody got a little something? I see some nodding heads. Let's give Amy some interactive feedback for her and some questions. What pops up? Joy, what pops up for you in your seventh to eighth decade in relation to all the young people you know?
I'm just smiling because it is so true. And I just want to share it with all my granddaughters, right? And my daughters. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah,
Right.
you're my pleasure. And yeah, feel free to share. Like
We're
these
making-
last two slides are so impactful. Yeah, feel free to share them there, and I will link who I'm not responsible for them both. Sorry, they're from other naturopathic doctors, but yeah, I will give them their credit and share them widely.
Okay, we'll figure all that out, and I will do a little summary in an email so that we can spread out this important information. It sounds like you really want to do that. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Where does this jump in, resonate?
I
Heather,
I
or
just
go ahead, Cindy.
the postmenopause part, it's really it's really validating to hear that because the last couple of years it's been like, why don't I want to do all the things I used to do, the volunteer part, the even kids, like I'm like, how did I ever do all of that? Because not even energy wise, just feeling wise, like I don't even have enough for me at this point. So it's been really, that was very validating.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, so much guilt you've probably felt like, oh, am I a bad person? When it's like
Yeah.
chemically your body has changed and it's not your fault, and we have to reconcile with like the new you.
Yeah. Yeah. I even like this morning sent a text and said, I'm going to come into the city tomorrow and visit. And what I'd rather do is sit home and read a book, but I'm going to do it. Not because I don't love my kids. It's just like, I'd rather sit home and read a book.
And that's what this information and gathering together is starting to get this information so we can really reframe our lives at every age and stage. So thank you, Cindy. Anybody else? It's really great for Amy also. So some reflections, questions, thoughts. There's Heather.
Um, so Amy and I have known each other for many, many years, and she certainly has been played a large role in my own journey through perimenopause and menopause. And you're right, Cindy, it is just so validating to hear this and to see this and to know that you're not alone and to know that we are all going to go through this in one form or another. And I think
That new chapter, um, Lara Bryden, the naturopath who showed me the first ebb and flow cycle, like she has gone through menopause and she said she kind of felt like a giddiness about like I want to pick up hobbies that I used to do as a child, going back to that, like it's now about you again. And she actually rekindled I forget exactly what it was, but something she did as a kid. At age 60, she decided to start it up again because she felt that was going to be part of her new chapter. There's Laura Bryden. Okay, so this book is where that Ziggy Zaggy picture came from, Hormone Repair Manual. So this is her book for women age over 40. So it's mostly focused on perimenopause. A lot of the information I presented today is in book form. And she also has a lot of scripts on how to talk to your family doctor about this, because I think we all can say healthcare is stretched and straining, and women's health and optimizing things aren't really at the forefront. So her book's pretty awesome in literally giving you a script of what to say to your doctor to feel heard and to get some of these things in motion, testing, treatment, etc. She also has a book for women, for teenagers up until perimenopause. So this is her book for 20, 30-year-olds, and this is her book for 40-year-olds. So she's tackling all of the stages in yeah, all the stages of womanhood. So I have both. A lot of it is stuff that I learned in school because she's a naturopath as well, but they're just great starting points if you wanted to recommend to a friend or colleague to like start deep diving into this kind of thing. And this book is all about like PMS. Nope, no symptoms. You should not have any of it. So, like she's saying, like, okay, there's something wrong with your period. Your body is screaming at you that there's something wrong. Like, we're gonna repair it, and here's how. So why are we talking about hormones now? Like, why am I so obsessed with it? And why is it more on mainstream mind? I think I think more women are struggling, and so they're being vocal about that. And I'm going to segue into that in a different slide. I think in general, we talk about mental health a bit more. And so that there is a huge mental health component to all of this, with reconciling all of those feelings, and the anxiety and irritability that comes without your blanket, progesterone. Hysteria is not an acceptable diagnosis, we have learned. And that was the blanket treatment or sorry, diagnosis for a lot of women at any stage of their cycle that if they were feeling off. Unfortunately, still the number one prescription for women going through perimenopause is an antidepressant. And not to say that there's not time and place for antidepressants, but what does that say about this whole journey? Like it's all in your head. It's all mental health. There can't be anything chemical or physical changing in you. And so I find that really unfortunate. Again, not that that can't be part of the treatment plan, but if that's just the number one treatment, like we still have ways to go. I think the social media piece has also got more women talking about hormones and sharing their experiences. So there's also just all of that being driven up. And then, no, where did I'm going to jump. Okay. And then this is the other thing that's getting women talking about it. So in the 90s, there was a broad spectrum trial where they put tens of thousands of women on synthetic hormones. They all got the same prescription. They were all the same age. And they were all synthetic and they were all given too late. If you're going to be doing menopausal hormone therapy, that is the new definition of hormone replacement therapy. It's now called menopausal hormone therapy. It should be within 10 years for best results of stopping your period. So anyway, in the 90s, they made a mess. And that really scared. Then that study got stopped. All of the mainstream media was presenting that hormones are scary and dangerous. And then no one touched hormones for a good decade and a half. Then in 2013, the International Menopausal Society issued a statement saying, whoa, 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 whoa. We have unpacked all the problems with that big study, and that menopausal hormone therapy is safe, is recommended, and here's why. So here we are, gosh, over a decade later, and this is still just trickling out. So I do give most family doctors in Nova Scotia a bit of grace that perhaps when they went through med school, this was not published. Unless they're a brand new doctor, they might be still under the old flawed data, and that scares them to even talk about this kind of stuff with women. But this statement and all of the research that goes with publishing this has really opened the door that like, oh, okay, we can actually explore correcting the imbalance of menopause and not having women suffer. So I'm going to jump back a bit. Okay, so the other reason is, why are women having so many hormonal issues? Why is their menopausal journey, where things should be back in ebb and flow, not? Why is it still a hot mess? Part of it is to blame for our environment. We have so many toxic compounds that mimic estrogen. So I mentioned estrogen's evil twin sister, xenoestrogen. And everything that is plastic around us, the wallpaper, the paint on my desk, my cell phone case, the fabric of my shirt, they're all off-gassing or contain microscopic xenoestrogen plastics that tricks our body into thinking we have too much or too little estrogen. And so part of just our environment has caused such a mess for our hormones now, that menopause is even more dramatic for women because of all of this. So there's more conversation too, because it's not like it was necessarily 100 years ago. They might not have talked about it. So there's also the piece that women might have just suffered in silence, but also it just might have not been as bad because we didn't have as much of this interfering with our own biology. Working women too. So feminism, I mean, there's not a lot of stay-at-home moms anymore. Like, most women have careers and volunteer commitments and family commitments. And so there's just more pressure on them as well. Also, perimenopause, menopause tends to happen at peak career moments. Yay. So either career transition, or you've reached that ladder or that goal, and then all of this is happening at the same time. So stress, and even good stress, like you might love your job, but it's still a job and you're still have time crunch. That will also make the loss of your blanket worse, because stress, cortisol competes with progesterone. So the loss of the blanket is more dramatic when you're more stressed going through perimenopause. And who isn't stressed? So also just the change in society and women in the workforce force is going to make menopause a bit more complicated. All the more reason to recognize it and to treat it. We talked about that. So kind of segueing into what Holly was saying, yes, we got to correct the imbalance. So part of it is quality of life. If your hormones are not in balance at any point in your cycle, we have problems. But especially as you're done menopause and this is your new normal, if you're still not feeling right, that's not going to change until you actively do something to change it, because your body feels like it's at its flat line, like we're done here. But you didn't land in a nice soft spot. So absolutely correct the unbalance for quality of life, for longevity. Okay, not to be dramatic, but when estrogen's gone, your body is basically shriveling up and dying. It's saying, we're done here. We served our purpose. Everything can just die now. So we get signs of aging, we get vaginal atrophy, we get sarcopenia, like loss of muscle. Without estrogen, the body is rapidly aging. So we live longer. We don't die in our 50s, like uh, what is the word I'm looking for? Mm. Anyway, the age at which we die, whatever that word is, it is in the 80s. So that's a long time if menopause is 50 and most women are living into their 80s to go without that energy and that protective hormone. We live too long. We can't possibly survive with just that little tiny bit of estrogen or none if menopause has gone really horribly. So there's the longevity piece. There's also the correcting the symptoms of aging. Age is but a number. I don't believe that there's any like, oh, I'm just old. Like, no, like what is off? What is causing those aches and pains, that brain fog, those memory lapses? We can treat all that if we get your body back in balance. There's a lot of popularity in the longevity market, and I mean, a lot of it just comes with just correcting the innate chemicals and balances in your body. There's a lot of protective elements from estrogen. Estrogen is huge for cardiovascular health, humongous for prevention of Alzheimer's, dementia, stroke, heart disease, osteoporosis, slips and falls. Like a lot of times, the broken bones in old age are all could have been prevented perhaps by making sure your estrogen was keeping your muscles and your blood flow and your bones stronger. So yes, now there's, as Holly alluded to, like once you get on a low dose balance to correct the hormone piece, there is benefit and science to show that just stay on it. I will say with menopausal hormone therapy, it is not bringing you back to 18-year-old levels of hormones. It is a crumb. It is just a crumb to keep you in that little harmony piece. It's nowhere near the levels you would have in the younger ages of your life. So you're not trying to defy nature. You're just trying to keep your body from getting any more old or declined, and staying as healthy as possible. Wouldn't it be better to just stay on estrogen than need a cholesterol blocking medication and a bone density correcting medication and heart disease medication and a blood pressure pill? Like they're finding that a lot of those things can be mitigated if we just keep estrogen happy. Okay. I do like this book. So this is written by a gynecologist who apologizes at the beginning for mistreating her patients for most of her career until she went through menopause, was a hot mess, and then did a deep dive and found out, oh my gosh, what have we been doing? And so she acknowledges that in her medical school training, they didn't talk about hormones the way I just presented today. They did crisis management, how to do a hysterectomy, how to remove ovarian cancer. They're really good at that kind of stuff. They're not good at quality of life. So now it is her mission to educate other physicians and women about successfully getting through menopause. So hence the name of hers. The new menopause is not suffering. She does summarize a lot of the what went wrong. I kind of did a little quick glance over that, but she dives into that more intensely, and she has all the position papers of the International Menopausal Societies in the book. She also has scripts for talking to your doctor, and because she recognizes that, like, yeah, the system's broken, it's not going to change overnight, but if you can advocate for yourself, you can get change. And she's also like she's on all the hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, low dose, and she plans to die with them in her system. Like she's not giving them up because she feels so good, and she's confident with the research and safety that will be a part of her life moving forward. I kind of talked about this piece about just scope of care in Nova Scotia. There's a lot of setbacks with just old school train of thought, all of the problems with the 90s kind of tainting medicine's approach. Nova Scotia, I mean, most people are lucky to get a physician, let alone one who's going to understand all of this. Gynecologists, that's often the most common referral. Like if people are saying, or women are saying to their doctor, I don't feel right. Okay, I'll refer you to a gynecologist. But then when they get to the gynecologist, sometimes that doesn't even lead to change. There are a bunch of private clinics for women to access hormones, and that is literally popped up to just serve a hole in the system. Like, okay, women are not getting care. They cannot get the referrals. They cannot get the competent physician. They cannot get people to sign off on these things. We're going to pop up and we're going to fill that gap. So unfortunately, private medicine is a thing in Nova Scotia, especially when it comes to the hormone piece. And naturopathic medicine. So unfortunately, in Nova Scotia, it's not within my scope of practice to prescribe hormones, despite being trained in them. But that is hopefully going to be changing in the future, where naturopaths will be able to prescribe hormones. So I'm hoping one day I'll be there to kind of help women. Right now, I can provide them the like educational piece and the nutritional and supplement piece to kind of ebb things, but like prescribing hormones, like I can't do that now, and that's a huge hole in my toolbox. So I'm just helping them with like going through the scripts of what to ask your doctor or exploring these private clinics in the meantime. But one day. Age is but a number. So if you have a symptom and you don't feel right, we need to get to that. We if you had a random growth on your body, your doctor wouldn't just say like, you have to live with it. Like, no, they're going to test and they're going to biopsy and they're going to figure out what that is. So that's the same thing with if